Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
December every year is that day of the year when people like to make lists and look back on the year. Now, you can treat this episode of Cut the Clutter as 2020's last or 2021's first, because many of you will read it on the 31st, many on the 1st. So you make that choice, because in what we have been through also lies lessons for what might lie ahead. So since everybody compiles lists and everybody talks about what's happened in this really awful testing year, which will compete among historians for being the worst year since the Second World War. There are a couple more, but this might actually be the worst yet. So how do I personally and through Cut the Clutter assess the year gone by? So let me do it through what else but Cut the Clutter. So this year we've had 307 episodes of Cut the Clutter, including this one, 307 in a year. We've had of this, see the subjects we've handled, and that will tell you the story of the year. 130, a total of 130 episodes have been on coronavirus pandemic or related issues, 130. Many of these were also done live, and there was a period when in fact we were calling this show Cut the Corona Clutter. There was a lot of panic, some genuine, some based on misconceptions. So we found a great deal of traction, and a lot of our readers sent us feedback that they found it very useful. So 130 on coronavirus. The second largest chunk, believe it or not, actually you can expect it very easily, is China. So what's happening in China, what's happening between China, its neighbors, the rest of the world. I think we had 3 on issues between China and Australia in a year, which is saying a lot. Usually we mention Australia only in the context of cricket. Also, we had 7 on CAA early in the year. So, and then there were many more on the economy, on politics, which is our usual fare. And I am not listing any national interest videos, because that's a different category altogether, although I might mention one in the passing. So let me look at 10 of our most seen Cut the Clutter episodes this year, and through that maybe paint for you a story of the year and also some idea of what lies ahead. So our most seen Cut the Clutter episode, believe it or not, in the entire year, and we did this in English as well as Hindi, was on the state of Indian media, on the failed business model of Indian media in the time of coronavirus pandemic. And you know, when was this done? This wasn't done last month or a couple of months back or 3 months back. We did this in April of the year that's gone past, April. So in April itself, it was clear that India's media business model was broken, that there was going to be a crisis had begun and it was going to get worse, and also how Indian media either had become sensationalist or it has given up news and become newspapers had become viewspapers, which is a metaphor because newspapers actually remain much cleaner. This applies more to TV, and how various mistakes, blunders made by owners, entrepreneurs had left media in such a mess, and we were quite surprised by the kind of traction that got, and that gave me heart to believing that people really are interested in the fate of the media, and people of India really think they have a stake in fair, good, healthy, professional media. In fact, that episode and the response to it gave us also the impetus to start our subscription scheme, and I'm very happy to say that that's got very good response from so many of you. So the response to that episode told us that people of India who hold their democracy and their freedom of speech very close to their hearts, they were now getting really not just disgusted but concerned about the state of the media. So in English and Hindi, that episode was number 452, that got more than 2 million views. And if you ask me, our total episodes in the year Cut the Clutter, some in Hindi, Cut the Clutter in the year has got more than 50 million views, 50 million, that is more than 5 crore views. And as I keep telling you, what do we give you? We give you serious, boring, factual stuff. We give you almost nothing that is entertaining. So that was our most seen, and once again tells you that people of India are worried about the state of the media and people of India want to fix it. So thank you very much, all of you. Second most watched and which got the most engagement was on agricultural reform bills. And that is when the bills were passed in Parliament. Now, my view, based on data, facts that I presented in that long episode of Cut the Clutter, and as I talk about these, I will not read out the numbers because that will make this CTC cluttered. You will see all the thumbnails on the screen with the numbers and things, and we'll give you all the links so you can go back and watch them. So next most watched was the one on agri reform bills, and we saw that agri reform bills were reformist and they were good. It's a continuing story now and will carry on into the new year, because what we also said at that point and what we anticipated was this is political. Agriculture is political. All reform is political. So the era when you could do reform by stealth is over. Now you are upfront. So you engage with those who are affected by reform and convince them that this is good for them. And as you engage with them, there will be some give and take. And the lesson learned here is that if Modi government erred with one thing, it was in not reaching out to the constituencies affected by this and selling the idea to them early enough, but doing it in its shock and awe, sudden manner. You remember that line, this suddenness, etc., etc. So this suddenness of a surprise of this decision. So sometimes you end up surprising your own people, which is not right. But that is what happened in this case, and now damage control is being done. So that is second. Third, it's a very varied list, and it tells you, it gives me as an editor great lessons into the viewers, readers' minds. The third most seen is 6 highlights of CNN investigation on what China did right or wrong on coronavirus. So this is the investigation. Fareed Zakaria presented it. This is the one that showed us that Chinese knew about this new virus several days ahead, at least 2 weeks ahead or 3 weeks ahead of their informing the rest of the world. So meanwhile, flights kept on going in and out of Wuhan and the virus spread all over the world. So that is our third most watched. Again, it's a story that's ongoing. It continues. China continues, coronavirus continues, and the Chinese role or responsibility in the spread of the pandemic also continues. Fourth, we are back to the media. That was fairly recent. Understanding Arnab Goswami's arrest, politics, policing, law and journalistic principle. Now we know what happened. He was arrested, then he was released. He came out like a victor, but you know that this fight between him and Shiv Sena government, I deliberately call it Shiv Sena government, not MVP government, MVA government, because this looks like more Thackeray family versus Arnab Goswami battle. That rages on. Similarly, Arnab Goswami's war on rest of the world rages on, or rest of the world that he decides to target, that rages on, and the story is not going away anywhere. This was also part of the larger story. So you can actually link this with our most watched episode, because what is wrong with the business model of the media? Fixed TRPs is very much a part of the problem. First of all, hunting for TRPs by telling sensation, lies, by spreading hatred against communities is one way that's wrong editorially. Second also is the unreliability of the TRP system, which has now been exposed. So that was number 4. Number 5, and again I told you, see how varied our interests are. We are not one-trick ponies in India. We Indians, you Indians, we Indians all have multifarious interests. We are very global citizens. So the 5th most seen is on Azerbaijan's spectacular victory over Armenia, mostly because they used drones in the warfare. So this was the first victory in a war between two nations through the use of drones or unmanned vehicles or loitering ammunition. This also, for me personally, brought home to me something I didn't know at all, that Turkey has now become such a big global power, a power of global significance in its military drone manufacture. So that was our fifth most seen. Sixth most seen, and these thumbnails are running on our screen as I talk. Sixth most seen is news insights on LAC from satellite pictures. Who sits where and since when, and who's moved where and when. So once again, another issue, this is the India-China Ladakh border issue. So satellite pictures keep appearing. There are many OSINT sites, open source intelligence sites, and also global defense publications and experts. We read those up, and my young colleagues, many of whom have helped me through the year with this, have been reading through these, and we compiled all these to try and give you a factual position several times, in fact, as claims and counterclaims are made, mostly within the Indian debate, because sometimes the question of whether the Chinese were sitting or where our forces were sitting was also determined in our debate by whether you liked Narendra Modi or not. So satellite pictures don't lie, and that was one way of speaking the truth, and I am quite glad that this is our sixth most watched. Seventh, and I told you one I will smuggle in one episode of national interest. So this is a national interest. It's a dirty picture, what we learned from Sushant Singh Rajput's death about Indian cinema or about Bollywood. That was a bit of a navel-gazing confessional article from me, saying how nasty this competition, favoritism, greed, lack of generosity within Bollywood is, and how tough it is for a newcomer. And I spoke mostly from my experience of having headed as the CEO of the Indian Express for 13 years, having headed the Screen Awards process, and the kind of pressures we came under as the awards evening came up, the boycotts, the nakras, the jhagdas, the tears, everything. And I did break a few rules. I did name names, and before doing that, I checked with Vivek Goenka, the owner of the Indian Express, because this was my role on the corporate side, not on the editorial side. So just to check with him that it was okay for me to reveal these facts, which I did. I saw some responses after that. I saw an interview that Saif Ali Khan gave someplace where he said, oh, if so and so threw a tantrum, why did they still give her a trophy, even if it was a viewer's choice trophy, not a jury trophy. So my answer to that is that we tried to get around it. We actually had a different kind of trophy designed also, but we figured even that was failing us in our objective of making the awards 100% clean, and we decided, we conceded defeat that in Bollywood you cannot have an award process that's 100% clean, and if you can keep it only 90% clean, it's not worthwhile doing it. So we sold that award property to Star, because it's their business, let them do it, and they are doing it. Number 8, Iran-China deal rocks India's Chabahar plans. So once again China, but a larger geostrategic picture in the region. Now China and Iran came very close strategically, particularly because of the way Donald Trump had strangled Iran. So if one side strangles you, if you are pushed to the wall, you will find some ally. So Iran got very close to China, and that had a big downside for India, because Chabahar is a port in the Baluch territory in Iran, and that's also an entry for India into Afghanistan without seeking land transit rights through Pakistan. It's a strategic port. It's not far from the Gwadar port that the Chinese are building in Pakistan. So that was our 8th most seen, and I am glad right now that Joe Biden is coming in, and he is committed to reviving his negotiations with Iran, and is committed to reviving JCPOA. As that happens, it will give Iran more strategic space as well. It does not have to be that dependent with China. Iranians are not dumb. Iranians are very clever diplomats. Iranians are an old ancient civilization. They are among the smartest people in the Middle East. Let me tell you that. Then number 9, see the variety. Number 9, India's wasteful degree exam disaster. This was based on the new education policy. Now it's interesting that we are talking about this just when we have seen this series in the Indian Express on toppers in our school system, or where they end up. So in fact, if you watch this Cut the Clutter again, you may find a little contradiction between what that story has been seen to project in sort of short form than what we had meant. That story has been seen to project that, oh, if 55% of the toppers are going out of India, there is brain drain, right? Our argument in this CutTheClutter was that just the marks, just acing an exam is not a test of how good your brain power is. It's not a test of how smart you are. In fact, that is the flaw with our education system. So don't confuse topping exams with higher brain power. That is what has been drilled down the heads of our generations, of our parents, who then also blackmail their children with the same pressure, and that has actually damaged a lot of talent and creativity in India, because to be a topper is the be all and end all. So to be a topper does not mean that you have the best brain. It means maybe that you have the best memory. It means that maybe you are the most committed at mugging up. It may mean also that probably you spent no time on the playground. It may also mean that your parents had the money to give you the best tuitions or the best coaching classes, which a lot of the poorer people, small town people, lower middle class cannot get access to. So this is a very unfair competition. It might also mean in what mood you woke up that morning. It might also mean, as we had said in that CutTheClutter, which god your mom prayed to on the morning of your exams. So don't confuse exam results with intelligence, talent, brain power. That was the essence of our CutTheClutter. It was not about toppers. It was about why a system that glorifies only toppers is flawed. Number 10 now, politics, but interesting politics. In fact, our most seen or most watched episode on domestic politics this year was on the 3-generation Scindia dynasty, its uniqueness, why it's unique, and what Jyotiraditya Scindia's departure from the Congress means for national politics. So once again, it tells us what a varied taste our viewers, readers have. And that again is a story that carries on, because that happened some time back. After that, Jyotiraditya Scindia delivered Madhya Pradesh to his party. He got the people who had defected under his influence to also win their by-elections. The state government in Madhya Pradesh is safe now and stable. And now, I presume, Jyotiraditya Scindia is still waiting for his reward, which might be at some point when Narendra Modi decides to reshuffle his cabinet in Delhi. Now, I will take an 11th simply because I had smuggled in a national interest at number 7. This 11th is slightly mischievous headline. Aap chronology samajhiye, did Trump arm twist Modi on hydroxychloroquine? So you would remember, first of all, HCQ was pushed big time by Donald Trump. The moment it was pushed big time by Donald Trump, it was immediately disliked by a lot of people. So if you dislike Trump, you disliked hydroxychloroquine. Then it surfaced that India was the global factory of hydroxychloroquine. So Trump prescribes it, Modi dispenses it. So if you disliked Modi, you also disliked hydroxychloroquine. And then it so happened that Trump wanted hydroxychloroquine from India, and India had first banned its exports because nobody knew, maybe it was going to be very useful for COVID. These were very early days in the history of COVID. And then Trump had a phone call with Narendra Modi, and India decided to give a bunch of hydroxychloroquine to America. So all the same people who hated Trump and who hated Modi and consequently thought hydroxychloroquine was just quackery, then they jumped onto another pulpit to say that, see, Donald Trump has arm twisted Narendra Modi, so he has given him this drug that India needs vitally for its own people. Everything is politicized these days. So what we had done was, we had not taken a view on this. We had given you the facts to do what we do all the time, which is to declutter. So as I conclude this list and this look at the year gone by and what it tells us about what we might see in the coming year, let me also acknowledge the contribution of people who make CutTheClutter possible, because I am the face you see on camera. But there are people who handle the camera, there are people who do the research. All of them are very young people. They are producers. So producers Sajid Ali Mir, who heads our video section, Manas Gurung, another senior person in the video section, Vindhesh, Upen. These are people who've kept this going because I am chaotic with my timings and I am chaotic with my time. Smile a little bit when I say that. There are also lots of other young people who basically make sure that I don't make at least big mistakes, and when I make small ones, I correct, and they give me enough facts for me to feel confident, so I can hold forth in front of you with just a couple of these yellow sheets in my hands without any teleprompter, nothing. So let me list some, and if I forget any, then my apologies to the person. I'll make up for it. So there was Simran Surur. There was Ayush Patnaik. Then with Ayush Patnaik for quite some time we had Anjali Birla, who came and worked with us. There was Bismi Taskin, there was Taran Deol, there was Unnati Sharma, and currently I have Raghav Bhikchandani and Shubhangi Mishra. And in fact, as I record this last episode of 2020, it is indeed young Shubhangi Mishra who is standing behind the camera. Then Urjita Bhardwaj, Sonia Agrawal. These two young people helped with research, helped to shoot, but also helped to edit because they've also learned video editing quite well. Karvi Grewal, Fatima Khan, Revati Krishnan. In fact, the one person responsible for helping me with a lot of the geostrategic episodes of CutTheClutter is Srijan Shukla, who unfortunately is no longer with us now. He now works at Observer Research Foundation, although even now, if I really need something complicated, I call him and he never says no. Many of my young colleagues have backstopped CutTheClutter in this year. So thank you all young people, and most of all, thank you all wonderful viewers, readers. I told you 5 crore of you watched CutTheClutter this year. I am expecting it to go up to maybe 10 crores next year, and we'll again promise you a varied fare like this, anticipating what's at the top of your minds and coming at you with pure facts to declutter. So thank you once again. Wish you a very happy 2021. Forget 2020. Some years are good, some years are bad. For each one, let's be glad.